All right, let's be real clear. This is coaches who could be on the hot seat after the 2024 season. So, Caleb, this is not a hot seat list. So I want you, in your own words, to describe the difference, because it's out there some, and some people, including me, may disagree quite a bit.
These are coaches who are not on the hot seat. They will be here next year at their schools if they want to be. And if there's no scandal, because, scandals can come out of nowhere. But these are coaches who, exactly. These are coaches where if something happens, if they don't perform the way their team expects to this year, they could be on the hot seat entering next year.
Okay. Now I want to set the parameters. So you're talking about a significantly disappointing season, but not the bottom falling out. You're not talking about any of these programs suddenly winning one game or something insane. Say like Stanford did with David Shaw. Remember, they won 10 games and then they won like 3. Or you're not talking about anything like that, right?
Right. I'm not talking about that.
That would have even gotten Saban's on hot seat if they win 3 games.
That's a shock jock at that point if I were to do that. Yeah. It's not that at all. This is, they're not guaranteed to be here past 2025. How about that? They're not guaranteed to be at their school past 2025 by choice.
Okay. I disagree with a lot of these, but I'm curious what the message board says. And I respect Caleb's opinion. I'm going to start with Kirk Ferentz, Iowa.
That's crazy.
They're not going to do better than Kirk Ferentz. They love Kirk Ferentz. He's been there forever. They're a program developing, player developing type of program. That's what they have to be. Kirk could be there until the end of time.
This is not going to come from Iowa. This is going to come from the Big Ten offices. One, Iowa doesn't have the Big Ten West to fall back on anymore because there's no division, so their schedule just got a lot harder because they actually have to play Ohio State now. They actually have to play better schools. And so Kirk Ferentz, if they go 8-4, 8-5 this year, the pressure from the Big Ten office that you can't do that with all this money we're doing, you got to be more serious about this, I think could really have Kirk Ferentz's seat hot entering 2025.
Okay. I think he's perfectly fine heading into 2025 and 2026 until he's ready to retire.
That's crazy.
That'll be my take. Mac Brown.
That's crazy.
I'm just going to tell you, it's the same argument. I don't think they can do better than Mac Brown, so I think Mac Brown can retire at Tar Heel.
I think they're going to think they can do better, and Mac Brown has not had fewer than 5 losses in a year. Now, North Carolina would typically settle for that, but Dave, there's an underlying factor here. Mac Brown's 1 is 72. 2, North Carolina is going to prioritize being good in football because you and I know this. If they get their ducks in a row, they will, more than any other school in the nation, have the 2 biggest conferences in a bidding war to land them when the ACC breaks up.
Mac Brown needs to worry about his job when North Carolina joins either the Big Ten or the SEC. I don't think he has to be concerned about it then. 15 seconds from Newbert Collision.
5th year, the 2nd and 3rd generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Okay, again, Caleb, tell me the definition of this list so everybody doesn't flip out and think that you're crazy.
If the coach, what you want the definition?
I want
first.
the explanation.
I just want to lead into this because if the coach underperforms this year, they could be on the hot seat going into 2025. Now you want me to give you number 8.
And he's got doesn't really need pipe because it's not.
I'm a very smart man and I have very, very smart ideas.
Fixation. You say if the bottom falls out that Josh Heupel could be on the hot seat. Well, that's a huge monstrous if, because both of us believe that they're going to have a successful year.
Josh Heupel could be on the hot seat. Yes, that is my take.
There's so much riding on this year. Any coach that hasn't won a championship or some that have could be on the hot seat.
No, Josh Heupel could because he's entering his 4th year and everything was put in on this year. So here's where I'm getting at with Josh Heupel.
Kirby Smart at one point had them knocking at the door of a championship and they couldn't topple Alabama. And he was semi on the hot seat. Some Georgia fans weren't happy. Everybody's on the hot seat.
No, there's official hot seats. If Tennessee goes 8-4 this year, if they go 8-4 and miss the playoff, Josh Heupel should be on the hot seat entering 2025, barring injury.
Travis says if he loses 4 games, I'm personally turning on him.
There you go, Travis. And by the way, we don't think that's going to happen. But you don't think losing 4 games is absolutely impossible, right? That could absolutely happen.
And I think we would both say aside from an injury season, right?
Yes, aside from an injury season.
Yeah.
I think Josh Heupel, but if there's a rash of injuries, and that's the 2nd year in a row that happens, look, there are some, I'm just going to say this up front, there are some questions about Heupel's strength and conditioning program. Because there's a belief that he focuses on getting you very much in shape athletically, but not putting on the weight and muscle you need to be able to sustain hits. There are some questions.
Well, I don't know who's questioning that. I think they've got a fantastic strength and conditioning program.
Look at what happened last year.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about, well, anyway, we'll do that another time. But I think that you were talking about, there's a difference between bone injuries and tendon injuries. You can't help breaking a bone. You can put too much stress on a muscle and make it too tight. But anyway, that's a long topic. Deion Sanders, I think he's gone after this year because his kids are gone.
You think he's bailing, period. Yes. I think if he's not bailing, let me be clear on this. Because amidst all the stuff and all the circus around Deion, the story of Deion Sanders, if he wasn't Deion Sanders, is this. He took a 1-11 team and went 4-8. He's got that program on the right track. If you just take all the noise out and you look at Deion Sanders in Colorado, that's what you think, right? Program on the right track, 1-11 to 4-8. Well, they're in the Big 12 now. I think it's reasonable to expect that they take another step to get to 6-6 or 7-5, right? This year. If they go 4-8 again,
I think they're going to have a very similar season. He's going to be like, this stinks.
If they go 4-8 again, because of all of his talk and all of his bluster, he absolutely enters 2025 on the hot seat, particularly when he's losing Shedeur Sanders after this year, his own son. So if he does stay at Colorado, he's not going to have his Heisman caliber son at quarterback, who masked a lot of the deficiencies last year. And he's losing Travis Hunter. So he could enter 2025 on the hot seat.
All right. We've got 6 more to get through. Mark Stoops, Kentucky, you're crazy. He's going to be there.
That's crazy.
Come on. None of these. Now, I'm about to agree with you on the next one. I've only agreed. Which one have I agreed with you on? Deion is basically it.
Mark Stoops can't hide behind playing in the SEC East anymore and then playing 4 easy opponents. The SEC just got tougher. He's got to play Ole Miss, Texas, at Tennessee. He's got to play Georgia. So he can't. And John Adams broke this down to me before, and I didn't even realize it. Mark Stoops pads his September schedule, and that's how he constantly gets to 6-6. He just had to forfeit his 10-win season at Kentucky, which pushes his winning record to below 500. I think if he has a really, really, really bad year this year, Kentucky fans will start to think the next year maybe we should. They'll start to think maybe we could go in a different direction.
I think they're more worried about basketball, and basketball now is in flux, so that could be.
They're in big trouble there, Mark Pope.
Yeah. So here we go. Number 5, Britt Venables.
Hey now.
I agree with you there. I think he will be on the hot seat in 2026. As a matter of fact, I might have him number 1.
2025, you mean? He'll be on the hot seat.
Yes, 2025. Excuse me. And then Jake Dickert at Washington State. I don't know much about Jake Dickert at Washington State.
No winning seasons, 5-7 last year with Cam Ward, who was a Heisman candidate. Cam Ward is gone. He's entering his 4th year. He got a bit of a break because he took over because the Washington State head coach was violating state laws on COVID mask rules. I don't care how you feel about COVID. I don't want to get into that. That's just how he got the job. So he got a lot of sympathy for how he dealt with taking over the job.
Now, the top 3 would surprise you because one just played for a national championship, Sonny Dykes. And then you have, for those that say he's too much of an LSU guy, which he's not, he just respects them, Brian Kelly. And then before we get to number 1, I I want to tell you that I completely agree with your number one. I can't go with you with Dykes and Kelly, though.
Dykes is doing exactly what he did what probably could have gotten him fired at other places. And what I mean by this is he had a very splash first year. The luckiest run in the history of college football, by the way. TCU should have lost like 5 games that year. I mean, they were the luckiest team in the history of college football. Then he fell to 5-7 last year. TCU is in the Big 12. This is the program that Gary Patterson built that was very close to making the college football playoff multiple times before Sonny Dykes. If they have another 5-7 season, you don't think they'll enter 2025 on the hot seat?
If they have another 5-7 season, I'm just having trouble seeing that.
And then, well, okay, fair enough.
And also, let's remember this. I mean, the expectations of TCU are going to be a lot lower. I mean, if you won a championship at Georgia and then went 5-7 and 5-7, you're probably going to be on the hot seat. I mean, those 2 embarrassing years. But at TCU, you still point to, and they're probably still having a discussion, should they build a statue? I mean, TCU hasn't been competitive, and they were that 1 year under Sonny Dykes.
Well, but Dave Aranda's on the hot seat this year after going 3-9 at Baylor, even though he went 12-2 2 years ago. You could see him go from 5-7 to 3-9, and then he really is on the hot seat.
Yeah.
So
I guess I don't see 5-7, but if it's 5-7 again, yes, I'll put him on the hot seat in 2025.
Okay, before you're number one,
yes,
we got to talk Brian Kelly too.
Yes,
because you disagree with me on that.
Yes, he's good.
Guys, I thought here's the thing with LSU. They didn't open the checkbook for Brian Kelly to go 10-4 and then 10-3 in 2 years in a row. They opened the checkbook for Brian Kelly because they felt what I felt. They know what I know, which is that if they hire a coach with brain cells, which they hadn't done since Nick Saban, that the talent in Louisiana should make it easy for them to win multiple national championships. We're talking 4, 5, whatever that LeBron thing was, not 6, not 7. Brian Kelly went 10-3 his second year at LSU with a Heisman-winning quarterback. He's lost that quarterback to the NFL. He has grossly mismanaged the defense. I'm going to say this. Last year's 10-3 season for LSU was the second worst coaching job anybody did in college football.
Second worst. All right. So number one, you have Lincoln Riley.
The worst coaching job anybody did.
The worst. It's pretty bad. Number one, you have Lincoln Riley. Has the shine come off of any player quicker than it has off Lincoln Riley?
No. He had LA in his back pocket 2 years ago. He was the star of LA. And now, here's the thing about LA for those who don't know the market. It's kind of bandwagony, but I don't mind bandwagon fans because that's the rule. Like any other business, if you do a good job, people pay for your product. If you don't, they don't. So LA sports fans we will love you when you're winning. And when you're not winning, they're not going to be like New York or Philly media, right? They're not going to crucify you. They're just not going to care. They're going to be like, all right, I'll go pay attention to something else. So the thing you have to fear in LA more than anything is not being in the headlines. Because if you're not in the headlines, there's a problem. USC was not in the headlines in LA last year. Nobody cared about them. That is the worst thing that can happen to you at USC. They fell up with the Heisman winner returning at quarterback. They went 7-5. I've never seen a coach this long. I mean, there's going to be issues with Josh Heupel that we're asking about now because he's got to prove it too. But he seems like this is a test year for him on this. But I've never seen a coach like Lincoln Riley go this long as a coach and just never even try to improve his defense. He's the Kirk Ferentz of offensive coaches. Like he is to defense what Kirk Ferentz is to offense.